This is Viral. This is a game from Arcane Wonders. Thank you again, Arcane Wonders, for sending us so many games to review. This one came out, I think, in 2017.
Okay.
There's a new expansion for it out called The Hive, which we may break out for a second game if we feel so inclined this evening. There's a little bit of setup left to be done, which I figure I'll go through the teach first, and then we can do that setup, because it's possible that there's going to be some stuff that I don't know. Maybe decisions will be influenced.
Okay.
But first thing we got to do is randomly select our first player, and the way that we randomly select anything on this show is with that name die. Dustin is first player. This first player token goes to Dustin, and all of these tokens get lined up in turn order to start the game. This is the tiebreaker section.
Okay.
So first player goes at the top, and we go in clockwise order for the rest of the turn order there. Then everybody should already have, in a full 5-player game, everybody's got a stack of 6 virus tokens, a little player reference board, 6 zone cards, and 5 basic mutation cards.
Okay.
All of those are identical for everybody, other than like your player color being on them.
What?
There's no asymmetrical player powers in the basic game. The expansion introduces some.
Interesting.
For the next step of setup, which we'll do in a bit, we'll take turns going in reverse player order, placing a virus on an organ on the board.
Okay.
And the rules for setup placement: you can place a virus in an organ. You can only place in an organ that doesn't already have a virus.
Sure.
And you cannot place in an organ that is in the same zone as a virus you already have, unless there's just no other option on the board by that point. We'll keep going around the table till every organ on the board has a virus. Then we are going to shuffle up these event cards, pick 6 of them and at random, and put them face up in that section. The rest of them can go back in the box. You won't need them. We're going to... Oh, that's right. Shuffle up these zone scoring tokens and put 6 of them out on the board, 1 on each zone, and the other 2 can go back in the box. You won't need them. We'll shuffle up these and deal out 3 of them to a little market row over here. So something along those lines when setup is all said and done. Then we will start the game. The game is played over a series of 6 rounds. Every round there are 6 steps, which is indicated by this section of the board over here. And there's handy little reference at every step to help guide you through what's happening. So the first thing that's going to happen is the first player token gets passed to the next player in the turn order. Obviously on the first round that is skipped. Then we go to this step where everybody will pick 1 zone card and 1 mutation card to play face down to the left of your player board.
So 1 zone, 1 mutation.
1 zone and 1 mutation.
Gotcha.
So you'll put 1 zone and 1 mutation face down to the left of your board. Once everybody's done that, we will reveal these, and then we will resolve them in turn order. There's a nice little reference on your player board to tell you what all of these actions are. Let's go over all of those real quick. The Infect action, that lightning bolt, lets you place a virus anywhere on the board. Any organ you want. There's no longer any placement rules there like there are in setup. The next one, Crisis. Place the lowest numbered Crisis token available on any organ. An organ can only have 1 Crisis token at a time. These will trigger some stuff later on in the round. We'll talk about that in a bit. But it's going to help cause some scoring and stuff like that.
So these are separate organs.
These are, there's 2 lungs, same zone, separate organs. Yeah, there's 1 organ in zone 1, that's the brain. Every other zone has at least 2 organs. This one's got 3.
Cool.
Yes. Attack is the next iconography to look at. That sword. Remove 1 virus that belongs to another player from an organ that you have a virus in. The magnet is in an organ where you have at least one virus. You can push or pull another virus, and it can be your own, it can be somebody else's. So there's adjacency rules that I think are pretty self-explanatory, just based on these arrows. Obviously, if you're here or here, you're adjacent to the other one because those arrows go both ways, but you're only adjacent to this side of the heart because these arrows are only pointing this way. So that you have to follow the flow of the arteries. But if I wanted to use the magnet ability, I could pull my own organ, or my own virus from an adjacent organ in there, or I could push someone else's organ or my own.
So you can only, so like for something like this,
Yeah,
I assume you can't pull backwards into an arrow.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only I could push out
Yeah.
into here, but I can't
Yes,
pull back.
exactly. So if I wanted to push a virus along this artery, I could do that, but I couldn't then pull it back.
Got it.
Because that's a one-way street. Shoots and ladders.
The ultimate board game.
The next one is Absorb. You choose one of your viruses in an organ and you place all other viruses that are in that organ in a stack underneath your virus. What? For the purposes of this, like let's say I wanted to absorb Dustin's or virus in that organ.
Don't absorb them, bro.
If that's the case, it's basically we're treating it like all of the viruses that are in that stack underneath me are not there. They will get released under certain conditions, and then everything goes back to normal. But while they're in that stack, they're just ignored.
Okay.
And then the last one is Shield, where you can flip one of your viruses to the shield side face up. If at any point you're supposed to remove a virus that is shielded, you simply just flip it back to the other side instead. Cool. And then Move, you can make a virus movement. That's moving to an adjacent organ along those same adjacency rules with the arteries and everything. Looking at these cards, the mutation cards are going to have generally more than just one icon over here. Every row is a separate action. You'll get to resolve all of those rows, but if there's a row that's got like a slash through the middle, that's an either-or decision. You got to pick one or the other. You don't get to do both. Some actions have a blue background, and that is where the zone card comes into play. So like this action on the bottom here, I get to take that action anywhere on the board. I can do either a move or a shield anywhere on the board.
Yeah.
With this action, since it's got a blue background, I can only take that action in the brain because that's the zone card that I played with that mutation.
Question.
Yes.
Top-down order? Like, do you do them like this one?
You can do them in any order.
Any order?
Good
Got it.
question. Yeah, you can resolve actions on your mutation cards in any order.
Got it.
Good question.
Cool.
After we have all resolved our mutation cards, then we have a second round of that in the same round.
Okay.
Everybody will play another face-down mutation and zone card, and then once everybody's done that, we'll all reveal, and we'll go around the table in clockwise order, resolving all those actions. And then coming back over here. So that's this step here when we resolve the second action.
Oh.
Then this is pick up cards that are in your cooldown area. So cards that are up in this section, you'll pick up and put back in your hand, and then you'll put the cards that you played that round up in that section. So you won't get to use the same cards every round.
Gotcha.
That's the end of step 1. Step 2, we're going to check and see if anybody has control of any zones on the board. You have control if you have at least one virus in every organ of that zone.
Okay.
If multiple players have viruses in every organ of the zone, then whoever has the most viruses total has control.
Okay.
If there's a tie, then we look at the tiebreaker track over here.
I see.
And during the game, lower on the tiebreaker track trumps higher.
Got it.
At the end of the game, in Endgame Scoring, if it comes to a tiebreaker, whoever's higher on the tiebreaker track wins the tie.
Got it.
So, in this case, I'm slightly lower on the tiebreaker track. I would have control of the zone. Then I would get whatever token is here. I would score that many victory points. And my research track would go up that many spaces. Research is bad, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Because we're viruses, we're trying to take over this body.
Sure.
We don't want the scientists to figure out how to cure us. We'll resolve scoring for every zone on the board. Then we will move on to step 3, where we resolve one of these event cards. An example here, no smoking. Place the lowest numbered crisis tile available in lung 1 and in lung 2. Oh, crisis tiles. So we would just put crisis tiles in those 2 lungs. Then we'll move on to the crisis resolution step. So that card, once that card gets resolved, you can throw it back in the box. You won't need it for the rest of the game. This also serves as the round tracker. Once all of these event cards are resolved, we finish the rest of the steps. We go on to endgame scoring.
Nice.
Got it.
The crisis resolution step, any organ that has a crisis token on it, we're going to count up who has the most viruses in that organ.
Okay.
And again, if there's a tie, you resort to the tiebreaker track. Lower on the tiebreaker track wins the tie. Whoever has the most is going to score 2 victory points. Anybody else that has a virus there is going to score 1 victory point.
Okay.
And then all of those viruses are going to get removed. Because the body's having an immune response in that organ, so it's attacking all of
It
those
doesn't matter
viruses.
how many crisis tokens are in that organ.
There can only be 1 crisis
Oh,
token
okay.
in each organ. Once we have resolved all of our crises tokens, if there are, like, if for example all 4 of these were placed somewhere and there's another organ, I forgot to mention there's a table here. Crises can trigger automatically in a 5-player game if there are 5 viruses in the same organ.
Different or total?
Total.
Got it.
So 5 total viruses in one.
You place a token. Got it.
Yeah, then we'll trigger a crisis there. But if all of these crises tokens are on the board already, then once we finish resolving them all, we'll look and see if there's anything that's supposed to have one. We'll add that crisis token. We won't resolve it immediately. It'll get resolved next round.
Got it. So that's just an after this phase, you just check for those.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Check to see if any new crisis tokens need to be placed.
Sure.
Then we'll move on to the cure step. We'll check this tracker up here. If anybody has a token that's all the way at the top of the research track, then the scientists have discovered a cure for that virus. All of viruses of that color are going to come off the board, and that's going to get reset back down to 0.
I see.
That's nice.
Yeah, that sucks a lot.
Last step of the round, we'll take a look at where we're all at on the score tracker, and whoever has the most points goes to the top of the tiebreaker track, and so on and so forth. So this is only going to be turn order for the first round, and then it's going to be in order of who had the most points at the end of the last round. Then we're also going to release any absorbed viruses, so that whole virus stack
And
situation.
A release means what?
Release means you undo the stack.
They just come back up.
And they all come back out.
Got it. Okay.
If there's let's say that there's a stack of viruses, and I wanted to do a move action with that virus, or somebody wanted to do a magnet action to it, it would move the whole stack. If something happens that removes that virus, that automatically releases everything in the stack. You'll see every 4 points for the first 16 points, there's an icon here. That is when you get to add a new mutation card to your hand. So as soon as you cross 4 points, this applies to everybody, you'll get to pick any one of the 3 mutation cards that's out in the row. If you pick one of those, you'll simply add it to your hand. You'll replace it with a fresh one from the deck.
Okay.
If you don't like any of these, you can take the top card from the deck, and if you do that, all 3 of these go to the bottom of the deck and get replaced. So you'll refresh the whole row for anybody that's coming after you.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And when the first player crosses 21 points, all of these are going to flip over to the other side, which is either going to increase their point value and or reduce how much research they instigate.
So is it when anybody hits 4, we all get a card?
It's every time you
When
individually
you unlock it,
yeah, then you get a card.
Got it.
This one is the first time one person gets there.
Got it.
It flips all of these tokens. Cool. At the end of the game, in addition to whatever point values you're already at, you're going to add 1 point to your final score for every zone in which you have a virus.
At the end of the game.
At the end of the game.
Okay.
And you're also going to score points based on the cards that you add to your hand because they have a point value down there.
Gotcha.
And then at that point, whoever has the most points wins. If there's a tie, whoever's higher on the tiebreaker track
Okay.
is the winner. I think that's everything. Hey, thanks for hanging out. If you want to spend more time with us, do us a favor. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and most importantly, head on over to twitch.tv/BNB Tabletop and give us a follow there. We play board games live every Sunday night at 5 p.m. Pacific Time on a show we call The Board and Barrel. And we like to keep things interactive. You guys can influence what happens throughout the course of a game with our Buff and Nerf house rules. You can also make predictions on how things are going to pan out, play virtual bingo for a chance to win a free board game of your own, and heckle us and stuff from the chat. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you Sunday night.